So we'll discuss about control break statements. Again, so what are the control break statements? Control break statements are used to handle the loop processing. Okay. So what is the use of control break statements? Control break statements are used to handle the loop processing. Here we have different events. What are the prerequisites to what are the prerequisite to use control break statements? Internal table should be
The
in sorted
internal
order.
table should be sorted.
Okay. So what is the use of control break statements? Control break statements are used to handle the loop processing. And here we have different events. Each event will execute in a different condition. Like one event will execute at the first record, one event will execute at the last record of the internal table, and the other event will execute for the first record of the each field. Okay, and one event will execute for last record of the each field, and we'll see the different events what we use. First one at first, and it closes with the end at. So when this at first event will execute, when
First
the
record.
first record of the internal table started loop processing. Okay, okay, when first record of the internal table is processing the loop, at first statement will execute. In between the at first and end at, we can write our functionality. Depends on the requirement. At last, so when this at last event will execute for the last record of the internal table, it doesn't care about the values whatever in the internal table, it cares about the position. At first and at last statements will only check for positions, right? Is going to check for the values of each record. No, it doesn't care.
No.
At first statement will check, okay, is it the first record of the internal table or not? At last statement will check, is it the last record of
That
the internal table or not? That's it. What is the other
sir, have you
statement?
started recording?
Sorry?
Have you started recording?
Yeah, I've started.
Recording our class. Okay, okay.
Okay. Then what is at new and field name? This will start for each new record by that field name. When the at new statement will execute in the internal table, we'll be having different records, right? So whenever a new record got started, when a new record processing is started, for example, there is a internal table with employee IDs. So whenever, for example, employee IDs are like this 100, 101, 102, 103, then when this at new event will execute, for every record of the new employee, first time it will execute for 100. Next record is also 100. Is it going to execute? At new statement is going to execute or not?
Yes, sir. It will execute.
No, it won't execute. It will execute for the first record. Okay? It will execute for the first record of the employee ID 100. It won't execute for the second record of the employee ID 100, right? When at new event will execute, when a new employee ID reached, a new employee record reached, and if it is the first record of that employee ID, it will execute. If it is repeating, like monthly salaries, if the internal table contains multiple records for the same employee, it will execute for the first time, for the first record of that employee, right? Okay. If you take employee ID as a field, it will execute for the first time when that employee record reached. If it is repeating, it is going to execute for the remaining records.
No, sir.
No. I'll show you how it looks like at end of field. When this at end of event will execute,
Last record
yes, executes
with
for
repeated.
the each
Last record.
last record
Good.
by that field name. Okay.
Mm.
For example, if you take employee ID, if employee ID for that particular employee ID, if we have 10 records in the internal table, for example, it's the internal table contains employee salary data, each month salary data. So if that particular employee contains 10 records, we are already sorting it, right? Then all the employee IDs should be in sorted order, right? Then at new will execute for the first record of that particular employee, and at the end of will execute for the last record, right? Then for a particular employee, it should execute the first record and 10th record. In between the records, right? Second to ninth, those will not be executed in at first or at end of, right?
Yes, sir.
What about at new? Sorry, at first. At first will execute for the first record of the internal table, whatever the record it is, whoever the employee it is, it will execute for the first record which is in the first position. And at last, we'll execute for the last record of the internal table. Let's try a simple table. Let's say we have an internal table with these fields, and we defined using type structure, employee ID, employee name, department, and city. Okay. Now let's type in the values. Employee ID 100, name, some department is some SAP department, Hyderabad. Again, it is repeating. He is also in Java department. See, it doesn't make any sense like using departments like SAP and Java, but again he is repeating in Python. So let's assume he's working in three different departments. Okay. Yeah, these are enough for now. Let's assume this is an internal table with records. Okay. Now this is the internal table with records, and let's assume we sorted this internal table by employee ID. Okay. We sorted this internal table by employee ID, and we are looping this internal table. And we are looping this internal table. Loop at I tab into
Carry on.
and in between the loop and end loop, I want to handle some events like for the first employee, if the employees are repeating, for the first employee, I want to execute a specific functionality. Okay, whenever a new employee is reached, I need to execute a specific functionality. What is the suitable event for that? Whenever a new employee is reached in the loop processing, I should execute a specific functionality. What is the suitable control break statements here? Whenever a new employee is reached, I should execute some specific functionality. First time, this record will reach. This is the new, for the first time, 100 will reach, right? Then what is the next available new employee? 200, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, yet new, now yet new statement will execute for 100 record and 200 record, right?
Yes.
Now we'll mark each record. So first, let's start from the at first event. When at first event will execute, at first event will execute for the first record of the internal table. It doesn't care about the values. Is it a first record of the internal table or not? Look at our table, internal table. What is the first record?
100.
Employee ID 100,
That
which
department.
contains department SAP. This is the
SAP.
first record of the internal table. So at first event will execute for this record when tab x equal to 1. What is site tab x?
Look.
Loop count, right? Now, when the at last event will execute, is it
At
execute
the
for the
last.
rest of the records? Rest of the records? No.
No, sir,
At
for
last
the
event will
last record.
execute only for the last record of the internal table. It doesn't care about the values. Is it a last record or not? So this is the last record. So how many records this internal table contains? 4 records, right? So what will be the tab
Yes,
x
sir.
value when it's reached
Four,
at last event?
4 records.
4.
records. Yes.
Sy tab x equal to 4
Four.
when it is reached the at last event as per this internal table records, right? So when at last event is reached, Sy tab x should be 4 because we have total 4 records in the internal table.
4 records.
Now, when at new event will execute, at new event will execute for each new record of the employee, each employee, right? For 100 employee, how many records are there? 3 records, right?
3.
But what is the
Yes, sir.
first record reaching the internal table? This one, right? Which is in
SAP.
the
Yes, sir.
first position. So at new event will execute
After 100 and 200.
100. And what is the next new record? It reaching new employee record. It's reaching
100 Java, sir.
after
Second
100.
record. Java thing.
No, new
200.
employee.
200, sir.
200.
What is the first record of the new employee? 200, right?
Yes, sir.
It will also reach 200
200.
because that is the record with new employee. Next available record with new employee. right? That
Yes,
is
sir.
that is the meaning of at new. At new field name. Let's assume field name is equal to employee ID. So what does it says? So stop when a new employee record is reached, right?
Yes, sir.
Don't stop for the second or third record of the same employee. Only stops for the new record of the new employee. The first available record of the new employee. Okay? Don't check for second record or third record of the new employee. Just check for first record of that new employee. Okay? That is called that what at new. Okay? So now when at end of event will execute,
For the last record of the internal
the
table.
last record of the each employee, not internal table.
Okay, okay.
Last record of the
Oh,
internal table
until
is at last.
last at last. Okay.
Okay. So last record of the each employee. In this case, we are taking employee IDs, right? That's why I'm talking about employee ID. If it is some other value, sales order or purchase order, we need to talk about that value. The last record of the field name, right? What is the last record of the employee ID 100?
Python.
Python.
It's in
Python.
third
Third
position, right?
one.
Yeah.
Third position. Yes,
So
sir.
for at end of, this will execute. And what is the next record it's going to execute for at end
200.
of?
200.
200 also, because it is the last and first record of the employee ID 200, right? If it is repeating, let's say if it is repeating, just like
It will
100,
execute for next one.
it will execute the last available record of the 200,
Last.
right? Last available record of the 200, correct? So is everyone clear till now?
Yes, sir.
So at first will
Yes.
execute for the first record of the internal table. At last will execute for the last record of the
The
internal
last record
table.
of the internal
And
table.
yet new will execute,
For new record by
yeah,
field
for
name.
every new record of the field. If you take employee ID in the at new, so it will execute for every new record of the employee ID. For employee ID 100, what is the new record? First one, right? First available record is
Yes, sir.
100, right? In the
Yes, sir.
that is in the first position only. For 200, this is the first and
Last
last
record.
record. That is the first record and that is the last record, right?
Yes, sir.
And also it is the last record of the internal table. That's why it is executing for three times, three events, right? Clear? Shall we go to the program?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'll create a new program. Create the program. What is the type of the program? We need to select.
Execute. Executable program.
Executable program. Now I'm selecting some valid
Package.
package. Click on save and it will ask for transport request. If it is your transport request, save, click on continue. If it is not your transport request, or if it is not
Create
relevant
new.
transport request for the development, create a new transport request. Provide the description. Click on save. It will create the transport request so that you can release it to the test system. I'll provide some comments here. Okay. Now we'll define one internal table. Tell me now how to define an internal table.
Data. Data.
Data is the statement to define the internal table, but what is the prerequisite before going to define it?
Create the structure.
We need a type
Param-
structure, right?
Type structures.
Types begin of, for example, ty underscore emp data. We'll take employee ID as first field. Type, I'll take character, length
Length.
Length
10,
10.
Employee name.
employee name, type C, I'll take 40. So I'm taking different options so that you can recollect the different ways to define length. And department, I'll take it as 4. Type,
So we should take it as like employee department only.
sorry,
Employee department.
okay.
Yes.
So end of ty underscore.
Salary lengths.
For integer, length is not required.
Okay, okay, okay.
So now tell me, is it the correct syntax?
End
Ty
of
underscore
TY
EMP data,
underscore
sir.
employee
EMP
data.
data.
End
EMP
of
data.
emp data. Now our type structure is completed. By using this type structure, we'll define one internal table. Data, for
IT
example,
Declaration.
underscore
IT
EMP
underscore
data.
emp data. Type,
Type
Type ty underscore
standard table of
standard table of
ty
TY
underscore
ty
underscore
emp
underscore
data.
EMP data.
And if you need a work area,
Define W underscore
for example, w underscore emp data.
data.
data. Type
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 TY underscore
ty
ty
underscore EMP
underscore
data.
emp data.
MPT.
Now our internal table work area declarations are completed. Now let's pass or
data.
populate data to the internal tables and work areas.
Underscore employee data.
We
Hyphen
have new
employee
ABAP
data.
syntaxes to populate easily to the internal table directly. We'll see in the next sessions, okay? If we can understand the basic concepts of this.
EMP ID.
PID equal to some 100.
Work area underscore EMP data underscore EMP names.
It's not underscore, it's hyphen.
Okay.
Hyphen field name.
Okay, sir.
Name of 100.
Control D.
Whatever the character type values we have to provide in the single quotes. Okay. Fun.
EMP department.
SAP. Salary.
10,000.
So populated are the 4 fields. Now what we need to do? Add
Clear.
it to the internal
Append.
table.
Yes, sir. Append.
Append. Tell me the
EMP.
syntax.
Append
Work
and
area
close.
underscore work area underscore employee data.
Work area
Mm.
underscore EMP
Area
data.
underscore into
Append work area
to
to
IP
Internal table.
underscore employee data.
IP underscore EMP
yeah,
data.
internal table. Okay. Then
Yes.
clear.
Yes.
Clear.
Work area underscore employee
Clear
Work
data.
work
area
area.
underscore EMP data.
Yeah. Next populate the next I'll copy
Second record.
second record.
Another employee ID.
I'll populate for the same employee with different department.
Department.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here he is getting 9,000. Let's assume. And
Mm.
now I don't want to use append statement. I don't want to make it as a first record of the internal table for this employee. I want to make it as a first record of the internal table when I am inserting itself or when I am adding to the internal table itself. What the append statement will do? Add at the end, right?
Yes, sir.
What is
Yes,
the
sir.
alternative statement for append?
Insert.
Insert.
Insert, sir.
Insert.
Work
Insert.
work area.
ID underscore EMP data.
Table is there or not? Insert table
Insert.
from w
Work
underscore
area.
emp data. And what is necessary?
Index.
Index.
What is the exact syntax? Click on F1,
So
select.
work area underscore
Hmm.
work area underscore employee data into
Click on F1. If you don't recollect the syntax, select the statement and click on F1.
Close it and open it again, sir.
Let's try again. So select the keyword and click on
F1. Help.
work area
F1 in the
underscore employee
keyword.
data
For
into
some reason it is opening. Now I just want to show how to search for the syntaxes if you don't remember, right? For some reason this help document, right? It is opening at the bottom of the screen. For every syntax, right, there should be a help document where you can use that help document to find the syntax. but it is for some reason it is opening at the bottom. This one, ABAP keyword documentation. It would be helpful. When you click on F1, it will display the example syntax and example code also. Okay. So tell me, what is the syntax?
area underscore employee data
So we need to use work area first
into IT underscore employee data index.
into internal table. Work area
Internal
into
table.
insert, work area into internal table.
Internal table.
That's it. Let's check the
Index.
syntax. Let's check, let's do the syntax check. So again, it's a warning. It will definitely work. It will definitely work. Okay. It's a warning. Even if you don't pass the index, it will definitely work. But it is recommended to pass the index. In which position you want to insert this record. Okay, let's try without passing the index. Then clear the work area. We'll see in which position it's going to insert. So we inserted 3 records, right, into internal table. So let's take another new employee. We'll take employee ID 101. 101. Salary is some 7,000. 101.
Java. That was going
The
to be used.
department also changed. The
Department.
Python.
Okay. So for a new employee,
Yes, sir.
we're taking different record. And we'll take one more record. It is 102. I'm taking only one record for 102. Okay. Similarly, you can build any number of records. Okay. Let's check whether these statements are going to work or not first. We're getting warnings because we are not using index, right? So we're getting warnings. Our internal table is ready. Next, what we need to do? Let's loop the internal table. Loop it IT underscore employee data into work area. Both the internal table type and work area type should be same to use in the loop statement, or to append or to insert from work area to internal table, right? Both should be referring to the same structure. Now we'll try at first event, or let's see like how this internal table is built. For example, I'm placing this here in between 100. Now we'll see how it will add it to the internal table. Keep a breakpoint, execute, short dump. This is called runtime exception. What do we call this?
Runtime exception
This is
comes.
called runtime exceptions. So the program is not able to execute further. Now let's go through this error runtime exception. Error in ABAP statement processing the internal table. So there is an error in the ABAP program when processing the internal table. What happened? The current program has to be terminated because it found a statement that could not be executed. It is saying it is not able to execute a specific statement. Go to the error analysis, check the error analysis. An attempt was made to change or delete the row in the internal table. There is no valid cursor for this table, however. So the corresponding ABAP language command does not include addition index. What it is saying? It is saying that index statement is missing. Okay, and go further. And if you scroll down, you can see a section called source code extract. What is this source code extract? The source code extract show you the exact statement where it is rising the error. Where it is rising?
Insert
At
near
line
the
number
insert.
28.
28,
You can see this
28.
arrow marks, right?
Yes, sir.
This runtime exception or this short dump is coming from line number 28. It is expecting index, right? Correct?
Yes, sir.
If you double click on this, it will directly take you to the program. Go back again or click on debugger. It will launch the debugger screen automatically. If you click on this debugger is launched, right? Then click on F5. Anyway, it won't work, but you can check the values. So why it is causing the runtime exception, you can check here. Okay, what are the values I am passing? There is already one record in the internal table and you are trying to insert another record using insert statement without specifying index. Correct? Now, so if you want to check these runtime exceptions, there is a special transaction code to check all the runtime exceptions, runtime errors. What is the transaction code? ST22. What is the transaction code?
ST22. ST22.
ST22 is the transaction code to check all the runtime errors
Runtime errors.
or system exceptions. So today if you see how many runtime errors are there? 97.
97.
Different users
97.
are executing, right? So it caused 97 runtime exceptions. Click on today. Check what is your runtime exception. What is your user ID?
Best.
Best, right?
Best.
Since many users are using same user ID, you can see same user ID because user ID is common for many of people who is using this training server. Okay. So if you see this program, this is our program only, right? ZDemo control break class
Yes,
node.
sir.
Double click
Yes.
on this to check what is the runtime exception. So again you can see same here. Okay. If you go to source code extract, it will show you the exact place where it is failing. This is common to any program or any method or any interface in ABAP. This is how we check runtime exceptions using which transaction code?
ST22.
ST22. Okay. You can also search by date and time and by user. Okay. Or by program. If you want to check runtime exceptions of a specific program, you can enter the program name here in the cancelled program and you can filter. Okay. Without checking all the different errors. Clear? So what is ST22? ST22 is the transaction code
Transaction
to
for
handle the runtime exceptions
to
or
handle
to check
runtime errors.
runtime exceptions. So it will provide some analysis why this error is caused and it will show you exact source code where that exception is raised.
There is.
Okay, and we have different options. Okay, it will show many details. This will be helpful in troubleshooting to find the error, find the root cause of the error. Okay, now let's go back to our program. What we have to fix? So we should not use insert statement without index. index sum1. Now let's check. Again, it is same thing. Why?
We gave index 1 1.
We are using index, right? Now in which line it is triggering the error? Go to ST22. This is the new runtime exception. Go to error analysis or source code extract. Now in which line it is triggering? Line number?
43.
Line number
43.
43, because index is not mentioned here. Okay. Now fix your program. That's how you troubleshoot. Okay. Depends on the by going through the error analysis. So these are the most common things, like when you are working in the projects, right? You're going to get a lot of system exceptions when you are testing the program. You have to check the error analysis like this. Go to ST22 and check whenever you see this red screen. Okay. Now let's execute. Now how many records are there in the internal table?
6.
6.
6 records. So is it in the sorted order? First record is 101, 101. Next record is 100.
No, it's not.
Fourth record is 100. Fifth record is 102. Again, sixth record is 100. It's, it's not in the sorted order, right? It's in the insertion
Yes,
order.
sir.
It's in the insertion order. So what we need to do before
Yes, sir.
going to use loop control statements?
We need
You need
to
to sort
write
it.
them.
Uh, we need to sort it.
Sort the internal table.
Sort by employee ID. Okay. Now let's add at first statement. When the at first statement will execute?
First record.
For the first record, when the loop process reached first record.
First record.
When the at last event will trigger? For the last
Last
record of
For
the
the last record of the internal
internal table.
table.
right? So we'll also display the record. What is the record that is displaying here? Can we directly use the work area? No, we should use in work area hyphen field name. We'll display the employee ID and we'll also display the department. Just to check what is the record that is triggering at first. Okay, clear? Now Now execute. Why it is showing stars? So there is a limitation when this record is reached the event, right? The values will be hidden. Whatever the values in the work area, those values will be hidden with stars. Whenever it is reached this control break statement at first or at last or any control break statements, when the loop processing reached a specific control break statement, all the values in work area will be hidden. To avoid that, what we are going to do, we are going to define one temporary work area or copy work area. I'm using inline declaration now. I'm not defining again using data statement. I am defining here itself temp equal to, and I'm passing the actual work
Okay,
area data
actual
to
work area.
the temporary work area what I have created, right? Now, instead of this work area, actual work area, I'll use this temporary work area to display the values. To handle the values of the work area, we need this temporary work area because the actual values of the work area is hidden with stars. Now, clear the work area after loop processing, both work areas. Now execute. So what it is displaying? First record of the internal table, that is Python, and the second record of the internal table, sorry, last record of the internal table, that is 102, right?
SAP. Yes, sir. SAP.
So, okay. I think we have taken only character 4 type, right? That is Python is not completely taking. That's okay. We have to pass only 4 characters. Even if you don't pass, it will automatically take only 4. Now, so you guys understood, right? What is at first and at last? I'll show you one more time in debug. So we are executing sorted. Sort statement is already executed. Now, internal table should be in sorted order. Is it in sorted order or not? It is in sorted order. Now, what is the event that's going to execute now?
At first,
At first
At
event
first,
will execute because we are in the first record processing. Tab x equal to 1. At first is executing and printing the data. At last will execute at the end. Okay. When it is reached to tab x 6 because all the records in the internal table is tab 6, right? So when it's reached the last record, now it's reached the last record, at last event will execute, right? And it will print some data. Now, if you are able to understand this, and I'll provide some kind of justification why we need to use these statements again, just to print this output. No, right? There should be some need to use these statements. For example, to calculate total amount provided as salary for the all employees. Okay. So what is the amount that company has spent as salaries for all the employees? Right? We'll calculate that. Okay. For that we define one variable. For that also I am using inline declaration. Data of LV underscore amount equal to where I am getting this salary.
Temporary work area.
plus LV underscore amount. Initially, underscore amount will be blank for the first record. Salary plus amount, that will be moved to LV underscore amount. Then where we need to print this? Where we need to show this total salary for the last record, right? At the time of processing, the last record, correct? Okay. Inline declaration is not working when we are calculating like this. We'll define one variable, data. What is the type I have to take? Since I have taken integer for salary, I'll take integer only. For amount also. Okay. Now the loop processing will calculate total salary, okay, into LV underscore amount. And when it is reached the last record, I'm printing that output. Okay. Clear? Are you able to understand what I am doing here? I've
Yes,
defined
sir.
one variable to calculate the total salary provided to the employees. What is the total salary? Not, this is not by each employee. This is for all employees' salary. I'm calculating total salary paid to the employees. Okay, that's why what I'm doing, for every record I am adding that value to the previous record value. At last, what I'm doing, I'm printing that amount when it's reached the last record. Now keep a breakpoint and execute. So these are the records. Now we are adding salary. We are aggregating the salary of the all records. How are we doing? So first record, what is the value of LV underscore amount initially for the first record?
0.
0.
0.
Salary 8,000 for the first record. 8,000 plus 0, and now the value in LV underscore amount is 8,000. At first is triggered, and it will display the employee first record of the employee, and at last is it going to trigger now? Now we are in the second loop processing. Sorry, not second record processing, right? In the loop.
Yes, sir.
Then again, now what is the value?
9,000.
9,000 plus existing amount 8,000. That will be moved to LV underscore amount. Now it is
Underscore amount.
17,000. Now these two events are not going to execute because this is the second record of the internal table and it is not the last record of the internal table. That's why any of at first or at last is not going to execute. Again, this is for third record processing. Third record salary is it is not by employee
10K.
IDs. I'm calculating based on all records. Okay. Similarly, it will sum up all the amount of the all records. Fourth record, fifth record, and it's reached the
At
sixth
last.
record, last record.
6th record.
It's calculated the total amount. Total amount is 53,000, and it should go to at last and should print the output. Completed, right? When all the records are processed, it is displaying that output, right?
Yes, sir.
This is simple example, like why we should use control break statements. You may ask me, right? So for these kind of calculations, to show some final output or some final value at the end of the loop processing, we use this at last statement. Okay, clear? Now, similarly, shall we display total amount by employee, total salary paid by each employee, paid to each employee, kind of subtotal? Can we do that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. For that, we are going to use at new and at end of. What is the event at new? At new, EMPID, and at. So what it is going to do here? The at new event will trigger for each new record of the new employee, right? Each first record of the new employee. So when at new event is going to trigger, for each first record of the new employee, right? This is at new. And at end of, for each last record of the new employee. At end of employee ID. Now, first we'll display the output. F8. Now what are the events those are triggering? For at first, 100 with Python department is triggering. For at new, also it same record is triggering, right?
Yes, sir.
Because it is the first record of that employee ID 100. So at new event is triggering. For the last record, 100 is triggering. For 101, at new, SAP department
SAP,
is triggering. At the end of Python department is triggering.
Python
So
department
that
is
is
triggered.
101 SAP is the first record and 101 Python is the last record of that 101 employee ID. For 102, three events are triggering. At new, that is the first and last record because it is a single record, right? In the internal table, we have taken only single record for 102 with only one department. So at new and at end of events are triggering because 102 is the first and last record of that 102 employee. And at last also triggering. Why at last is triggering? Because it is the last record of the internal table, right? Clear? Is everyone clear?
Sir,
Yes, sir.
Now we'll give some business justification why we should use at new or at end of. So similar to the total salary calculation, we'll do total salary paid to the each employee. For that, what we need to do? We need one more variable. We'll take type I, then we'll calculate. Now tell me, we need to calculate by each employee, right? We
Yes,
need
sir.
Yes,
to calculate value by each employee. For that reason, first we'll pass the initial amount, or whenever it is reached, right? Whenever it is reached the first employee, we'll pass that amount here in at new. Now what we'll do is, we'll pass the amount here and we'll clear it at first. When it is reached the first record, right, we'll clear the previous amount. And at the end of, display the amount LV underscore EMP salary and clear it, so that next record won't get sum up, right? The value will be cleared, and next time the new employee record will starts with a new value, right? F5, what is the initial value? LV underscore amount is for total amount, LV underscore EMP salary is for employee wise amount, right? So now which record is processing? Employee ID 100, right? And department Python. So at first will execute, then at new will execute. Is it going to execute at end of second record of the employee ID 100? Now it is processing second record of the employee ID 100 and it will sum up the salary. Now third record of the employee ID 100. What is the total salary for employee ID 100? 27,000. Now what is the event that is executing? At end of, because it has reached the last record of that employee ID 100, right?
Yes, sir.
For that reason it reached at end of. Now we are printing the total amount by employee ID, total employee salary we are printing here. Next what we are doing, we are clearing it, we are clearing that employee value, right? Now LV underscore employee salary is 0. Next time, now which record it is processing? Now which employee ID it is processing? It starts with the new employee ID, that is 101. Again, I'm not clearing LV underscore amount because LV underscore amount is collective salary of all employees. I've cleared only LV underscore EMP salary because it is only employee specific salary. Since it is reached the new employee, I'm counting it from beginning, right? I think we have two records, right, for 101. Now it should reach at end of for the second record of the 101 employee, and it should print and it should clear the value which is already there, because for the next record it should not add, right, for the new employee.
Yes, sir.
For 102 it's triggered one at new and at end of both and cleared. F8. Now check here, is it displaying employee wise salary or not?
Yes, sir.
For employee ID 100, total amount paid is 27,000. For employee ID 101, total amount paid is 16,000.
16.
For employee ID 102, total amount paid is 10,000.
53,000.
So total should equal to 53,000. Equal to 53,000 or not? Individual employee salary.
Yes, sir.
27 plus 16, 43. 43 plus 10, 53. Correct?
Yes, sir.
or you can also print like this. Keep it in a separate write statement. Okay, this is employee wise salary, this is total salary. Is everyone clear on this? So at first we'll execute for the first record of the internal table, at last we'll execute for the last record of the internal table. When all the loop processing is completed, then at last event will execute. Okay, at new will execute for each new record of the employee, or each new record of the by that field name. Okay, whatever the field we are using, for each new record, at new event is going to execute. When at end of will execute for the last record of that field.
of every input.
Okay,